Hi everybody, in this video we're going to show you how to make an image that looks just like this using layers. We're going to use one type of blend mode. We're going to turn layers on and off so we can see what we're doing. We're going to adjust transparencies. We're going to get rid of some parts of the picture, and we're also going to use non-destructive masking so that we can edit an image without damaging it. And then we're going to save our final work as PNG in high quality so we can share it and show everybody how awesome we have done. Alright, in this video I'm going to walk you through how to make the fish in a light bulb image, which is a basic photo manipulation tutorial. And we're going to use some provided images. You can use your own images if you'd like, but there's no need because they're provided. So if you don't like these ones, you can go ahead and get new ones. Go ahead and click Start Editing on Pixlr, pixlr.com, Pixlr. And we're going to make an image that looks like this one. We're going to do this from scratch right now. So let's go Create New. And I want you to choose Full HD. And give it a name right off. So this is going to be tutorial fish in bulb. You can call it what you like, but as long as you can remember. And we don't need a background for now. So let's go create. Alright, so in Pixlr we're going to end up starting with this blank page. You know it's blank because it's showing this checkmarked background. That's telling you that it's transparent. Notice on the right hand side we've got our navigator, and then we've got our layers. At the moment we've only got one layer. We can add more layers by clicking the plus button, and we can move layers around by dragging them or clicking up and down arrows. On the left hand side we can go back to our projects by clicking home, or we can see what we've got for tools. If you hover over them, it'll tell you what each of them does. Some of them only apply to certain types of layer, so if it's an image or it's text or whatever, you have different options. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to import an image, and these images are provided, so check the files area, browse, and then I want you to use, first one, the light bulb image. This is going to be a background, so we want to do we want to add the image as a layer in the current document or create a new document? So we want to add it to the current document that we're working on. And there you go. And if it's too zoomed in, you can zoom out. You can see that it overstretches our full size of our image, which is okay. And we can just move this around inside that frame where we want. And that's okay right there. Notice that if I move it to the sides, it gives me these guidelines, these fuchsia guidelines. Those are there to tell you when things are aligned. So if that looks okay, you can just sort of click away from it. Now notice that I've got two layers in my layers panel. I've got this light bulb, and then I've got a blank underneath. So if I click and drag, I can move them around. Now my transparent layer is on top, and my light bulb's on the very bottom. Doesn't look like any difference there, but it is a difference. And you would know, because if I was to draw something on the transparent layer, I would see it now. All right, so let's go ahead and jump and grab another image. We want the underwater image to fill in the light bulb with some water. Again, where do we want to put it? We want to put it into the current one. All right, now this is now where we start to see why it matters, where layers are. If I move this layer around, see, notice that it's on layer 3, and then there's a transparent, and there's this one. I'm actually going to hit this transparent one, and I'm going to click on the 3 dots, and I'm going to delete it for now. So now I want to get 2 layers, and my water layer is on top. This is a good thing, but it's not exactly how we wanted it later. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the corner, and I'm going to, I just make it smaller, and I'm going to drag it over top of my light bulb. If I click the 3 little dots, I can turn the transparency down so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And then I can click my water layer again, and I can drag it where I want it to be. So that looks not too bad. I want it to fill up sort of about half of the light bulb, and that's okay. And then, yep, so then I'm going to zoom back in, see what I got. Now, What we're going to do a couple things. And I could have edited my light bulb first, or I could have put the water in there first, doesn't matter. Notice they're on different layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my transparency like this, and I want to get rid of all of the water that's not in where the light bulb is. So we're going to do something called non-destructive editing. We're going to mask all this stuff out. All the background that's outside the light bulb, we're going to mask that away. So if you go to the little scissors icon, says cut out, remove background, cut out objects, blah, blah, blah. And there's a keyboard shortcut of K. If I click on that, it gives me some options of how to choose what I want to cut out. And we're going to use either the draw cutout or the lasso cutout. And for now, let's try the lasso and see how that works for us. You can try whichever tool works better for you. We're going to go with remove. And we're just going to try and see how that works. So if you look, as I'm drawing, it's removing everything that was inside my lasso area. So that's pretty handy for this type of work. And because I've already positioned it, I'm okay. If I go back and I reposition, you'll notice that there should be some, yep, there is at the top, and there's some of this picture at the bottom. So I can go back and forth in between those if I wanted to. If I think I might need to move this around later, that would be the way to do it. Okay, but just for now, it's fine. I'm going to go back to my lasso tool. I'm going to say, this time I'm going to say keep, and this is non-destructive. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to draw inside the light bulb, and I could have done this beginning if I wanted, but I want to show you how things work. So, oops. So keep will be the opposite. So let's go remove actually. We're going to go remove, and we're going to draw outside the bits, to keep going the bits that I want to remove. If I switch back to keep, then, and because you see where I was a little bit aggressive in my clipping, I can come back in here and just sort of put it back in. So I'm going to go remove all of this stuff. If you're working with a tablet, this is way easier. If you're working with a mouse, it's the next best one. If you're going to work with your finger on a trackpad or something, that's next best. Okay, now I've gone a little bit rough there, so I want to zoom in, and so I can see a bit more carefully what I'm doing. Get down to these details. Okay, not bad. Now, that gives me a really sort of a hard edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the paintbrush here, and I'm going to choose a paintbrush size, which is sort of that big. I guess for my picture it's about 40 pixels. And I'm going to go to keep, and I'm just going to brush in just along the edge of the light bulb. Very carefully. I'm going to go to remove and just sort of feel that edge out a little bit. Now if you want to move the picture around without sort of moving a layer, you want to move everything, move the whole canvas, if you hold the space bar and then move your page around, you can move everything all at once. So I'm going to go keep and just tighten up all this edge where the light bulb is actually showing. And notice that it makes a much smoother, much softer edge than the lasso tool. And I want it to be a soft edge because your eye is going to pick right up on any of those hard edges. Anywhere it's like pixely. I'm going to go remove and just get rid of some of this overflow. Anywhere it's like hard pixels, your eye's going to pick right up on it. Notice that if I make my softness, if I make that brush a little softer, it means it's going to feather in those edges for me. It means all those edges will be nice and soft, which is good because this picture is a little tiny bit out of focus because the light bulb is a little ways away and not entirely in focus. All right, Good. So you can spend as much time on that layer, on that sort of process as you want, but that's looking pretty good. And remember, I zoom out a little bit, remember that I had turned the transparency down. So if I bring the transparency back up, I can actually hide everything in that light bulb. We don't want to hide everything. So we want to put this about, I guess about 80% is okay. And we also want to get rid of the water color that's in the top half of the light bulb. So I'm going to go back to my layer, and let's go just draw this stuff out. Get rid of all this blue, tealy blue up here. And if you want to bring your brush size up, you can get rid of all this stuff a bit faster. Okay. All right, that's looking all right. And looking not bad. Transparency allows me to see through some into the inside of the light bulb without seeing too much. Now, next thing, we need to get rid of all of that device in there that keeps that actually causes the light. So let's turn this little check mark. Let's turn that off. That's sort of like in Photoshop. That's the eye tool. You click that, and you can see it or not see it. So let's get rid of it and go back down to, so it's not in our way, and go down to the light bulb layer. And I'm going to zoom in. Whoops. Zoom in with the zoom tools here. And what we're going to do on this layer is we're actually going to, this one's going to be destructive, because we're going to change what this looks like. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this. So let's go to the brush tool, and I've in the brush tool, the drawing tools here, we have some options. So we could go retouch actually if we wanted. We're going to do that in a little bit. Let's actually start though with just the brush tool, and I'm going to take a pen, and for my color, I'm going to click the little eyedropper, and I'm going to eyedrop some of the light bulb color, and then I'm going to brush in, just always choosing the same gray. I'm going to brush in a little bit here just to get rid of this. You notice that the grays are actually really specific in the different areas, so we'll have to pick and choose our colors a few times. Go back to the eyedropper, choose a new gray, paint this in. And you can use this as well to get rid of any other little blemishes that you don't like, that sort of thing. Now if I make transparency down a little bit and my softness up, when I pick my colors, I can blend those a little bit easier. Notice here the transparency is not, now when I'm painting, it's not so harsh. I'm not leaving brush strokes on my light bulb. And that's a bit better. So let's bring our size up, softness up as well. Notice the brush tip example there is quite a bit softer. Now that's much better. So that's a nice soft brush. Sort of like when you're working with your finger on paper, where you're making it. You're just brushing smooth. Pencil out, chalk, or whatever it is you're working with. Okay. That's not too bad, and if I turn my water layer back on, I can see if it's the way I want it. And I also don't like all this reflection, whatever that is. It looks a little bit dirty, so I'm going to turn that layer back off, and I'm going to try a different tool, which is under here under Retouch. You can play a little bit with these and see what you like, but for today, you can just try those. So the little Retouch tool is going to just sample the pixels around it and look to see how it can fix that area. So you can use this if you were like fixing a blemish on the skin or something like that. In our case, we're trying to just get rid of these little marks where it looks like it's a little bit dirty or something. And again, if I want to go a little bit faster, I can go and choose my color and choose that, put my softness way up. I can just brush in some, just a little bit. That's too much. You can undo with your Control Z on your keyboard. So I'm going to go transparency way down, and I'm just going to choose a color again. Up here. All right. I don't want to do too much here, but I just wanted to show you how you can work with that if you were worried about it. Cool. All right. And we've got, there we go. All right. Now, we've now got our water, underlayer of water in there. We've got our light bulb fixed so that we don't show the filament inside, and we've got everything masked out. So that's looking pretty good. Next step, we're going to add our fish and the splash in there. So you can do whichever one you want to do first. Let's go with the fish first. So we're going to go add image, browse, and there are 3 options for fish in here that you can choose from. Choose whichever set of fish you like the look of the most. Notice that these are all PNG files, so the backgrounds are already cut out for you, which is pretty handy. I like those more orange ones. I'm going to add it to our image. All right, we've got all kinds of fish here. Now, let's zoom this, scale this to whatever size we want. And I'm actually going to choose this image a couple of times. I like that bottom left fish. His name is Thomas. No, Tommy? Tommy the fish? Yeah. All right, so I like him. He's going to be jumping out of the scene. And I want to get, for now, I want to get rid of all these other ones. So I'm going to go, if you remember the shortcut was K, and I'm going to go remove, and I'm going to, oops, I'm going to use the lasso tool. I'm going to draw around all the other fish for now. That leaves me just Tommy. Okay, he's looking pretty good. And then I can move him around however I want. Notice it's still thinking that is all one big layer, but I can just think how I want, and I can rotate that how I want. Cool. And I'm actually going to grab another fish from the same set. That was the one. Yeah. I'm going to grab another fish from the same set and do it in the same way, but I want them to be on different layers. That's why I did it twice. And which one do I like? Oh, this one's a good one. He could be in the background swimming up towards us. So let's make that one smaller, quite a bit smaller. He's going to be further away, so it should be smaller. And rotate a little bit. Yep, that's pretty good. I'm just going to pull it up here and go cut everybody except for that guy. And then I can move him back in place. Right, now he's back in the background a little bit. He should be a little bit smaller. Cool. All right, now I got 2 fish in the right spots. We need to import our picture of the splash. That's called water splash PNG. Add current. It's got some good color to it. And then we're just going to do the same process. Click the 3 little dots. Turn the transparency down so I can see where I'm working a little bit easier. So that looks okay, but I kind of want the splash to be on the other side. So if we go to Arrange, there's actually an option there that says Flip Horizontal. So I can grab that layer, flip it horizontal, sort of move it around and things until it feels about right. And if I leave that right there, then it's going to look like the water is all wavy inside if I erase a little bit of the original water out of the background. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to leave that transparent for a minute. I'm going to put my cutout tools on, and I'm going to just go, it's on remove, so I can just go like this. Draw all this stuff in. Remember, this is non-destructive, so if I make a mistake, I can come back and just change the tool to say keep instead of remove. And I'm just drawing all this stuff in. Just need to be careful when you do your edges. You go a little bit slower. But once you're, and then you should zoom in. Spacebar so I can move the image, move the canvas around. This is our second layer of water, but you can see just with the transparency turned down how it looks as layer on top of layer. Not bad actually, just layer on top of layer. Okay. While I'm here in this tool, I'm going to clean up this edge one more time. Nice. Okay, that looks pretty good. Happy with that. All right, now, next thing while we're here, we're going to look at blend modes. Oh, no, sorry. Just before we do that, I'm going to get rid of a little bit of this water in the background, my underneath layer. I'm just looking how it lines up with this top layer of the splash. Yeah, so now our layers are working together. If I click on my splash layer again, so I'm working with that, you can see the three little dots, there's a blend mode. Let's change the blend, turn our transparency up a little bit here. And let's change the blend mode to overlay. And overlay means it's going to try to work with everything that's underneath of it and have a little fun with it. So it's working with the two, well, the three layers that are underneath and also the bottom layer, but it's interacting with that greenish, that teal kind of water and making this nice effect, this nice color. Cool. And then you can adjust the transparency to get it sort of looking like the color of water you want it to look like. I'm going to leave mine about 80%. It's not bad. And zoom out. Now, my edges are a little bit too blurry for me, so I could actually make my size, or make my brush harder or softer, and make that a hard edge if I wanted. It's up to you. I just don't want it to be pixely. But glass is very hard, so yeah, a bit too hard. Okay, zoom out again. We are getting somewhere. We're going to take our fish here, the second fish. Well, I don't think I ever named. That's okay. I'm going to turn him down, the transparency down a little bit, just to fade him a little bit in the background. It's maybe not the best way because it's sort of allowing some of the water to show through, but makes him look a little bit less pronounced. Yep. I can turn off the top water layer to move him a little bit and then turn that top layer back on if I want. Yep. I could even blur him a little bit if I wanted using some of the tools on the right, on the left. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Last thing we really want to do before we can just play around is that I want to add a shadow to this scene. So the shadow, for the shadow of the light bulb, because now it's full of water, so I'm going to have a bigger shadow. I'm going to make a new layer, click plus, an empty layer, and then I'm going to just draw a bit of color, which is going to be sort of black or dark gray. And I'm going to just draw with a very soft brush. Yep, that's okay. Soft brush. I'm just going to draw a little bit of underneath, a little bit of shadow underneath this light bulb. And then I'm going to mask that again. Where's mask? There it is. I'm going to mask that with my brush tool, just so that it doesn't, the shadow isn't on the light bulb. And then I'm going to turn the transparency down, just so I get a little bit extra shadow underneath. Cool, that looks pretty good. Happy with that. Zoom out. And that is looking all right. Couple of things we can do from here. If we wanted to, we could add effects. There are some nice effects under here. So you can add sort of effect to the whole thing if you wanted, or we could add a layer and just put on some starbursts and things. I don't need to do anything like that too fancy. We do need to save though, so I'm going to save this. as fission bulb, just as we saved it. We save it as full size quality. And if we put a PNG, it'll be even better quality. And download. So I'm going to save that. Okay. Now, here comes the fun part. We're going to make this table look like that it is a shiny table. And we're going to let this thing have a reflection on that shiny table. So that image that we just saved, we're going to go ahead and add it back in on top. I just saved that one. I'm going to add it on top of this current image. And you'll see now that it's on top of, it's a layer on top of all my other layers. And we're going to use this image to make a reflection on the ground. So we're going to go arrange. We're going to flip it upside down and flip it horizontal. Nope. Flip it again. Yeah, like that. Okay. And I'm going to turn down the transparency so I can see where it is. And I'm just going to line it up with my existing light bulb so that both bits of the light bulb are touching. Oops. So the bits of the light bulb are touching each other. In the reflection. Cool. And then I can mask out everything that is not going to be just that reflection out of my copied picture. See what I'm doing here? All I'm doing is just leaving a bit of that reflected light bulb on the ground. And then if I turn down the transparency a little bit, now all of a sudden I can see the reflection of my light bulb in the screen, which looks really sharp, I think. So we've done everything we need to do. You guys have done really well if you've gotten to this far. And from here, if you want to have a look through the different effects or do something else like that, that is up to you. But if you can get this far, you've done really well. And congratulations. So save this and submit it back into the assignments or wherever you've been asked to submit it so that we can see that you have been able to do this tutorial, and we're going to move on in the next one. Good job.